Welcome back to another episode of the Take Your Shot podcast. Today, I've got Danielle Hayden on, and we are talking all about your business finances. She has so much experience and knowledge in this field, and so I'm super excited for today's conversation. Danielle, welcome aboard. Do you mind telling everyone a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, thank you for having me here. Danielle Hayden. I am the CEO and founder of Kickstart Accounting, Inc. I started the company 10 years ago to help business owners understand their numbers, take bookkeeping off of their plate so that they can feel more confident and empowered. I want business owners to arrive to tax day like it's just any other Tuesday because we feel empowered and confident by our numbers every day of the year as business owners.
And I think that's a huge thing too, is just that confidence piece, because what I see a lot in the creative space is so many people who are just not feeling confident about it. And so when it comes to this time of year, they're like crunching the numbers, they're looking at taxes, and they're like, man, like
waited all year.
Yeah, like waiting all year, kind of like this, I'm avoiding it. I just am going to keep spending money as it comes and maybe not always being aware of, just kind of that clarity piece. So I am super excited for this conversation today. Let's just like to kick things off, talking a little bit more about just some of the common mistakes you see creatives make when it comes to managing their business finances.
Yeah, I have a bunch of them, so we can keep going. I'm just going to start with number one. The biggest one is a mindset shift. So as creatives, I hear over and over again, I am not a numbers person. I wasn't good at math. I'm not good at managing money. We're served up a lot of narratives online and in social media and in movies, reinforcing those stories that we tell ourselves. And so as creatives, we bury our head in the sand and say, I don't need to know this because I'm not a numbers person. And my hard truth for you is that as a business owner, so the minute you decided to take money from a client, a customer, you created the LLC, you started signing contracts for vendors and contractors, you became a business owner. And even if you feel like an accidental business owner or not very official, you're a business owner and you have the responsibility to understand your numbers, to be able to make business decisions, to pay your taxes, to keep people employed, and to be able to deliver the services that you agree to deliver. And I'll say, as a creative, I started my career as a hairdresser, and I found that numbers were a tool in this game, right? So I would use numbers as a game to help me achieve my goals. And then I started teaching people in the salon the same thing. I said, hey guys, let's all do this together and we can achieve even more goals together by playing this game of money. Fast forward, I did the same thing in corporate, helping CEOs and the private equity firms do the same thing. How do we use the numbers to get more of what we want? So we can be a creative and still use the numbers to get what we want out of our business.
I love that. And I think that's cool how you've kind of reframed it into this game, because I think that's a really creative way even just to look at it, because so much of us are just like, okay, it's the numbers, they're scary. Maybe spreadsheets feel intimidating or they don't understand them. And so kind of just like making it this simple mindset shift of, hey, like when you use this as a tool, as a part of this game to help achieve your goals, I think that can just really make it more engaging and fun and maybe less intimidating. Do you mind unpacking that a little bit? So you talk about this game, like maybe just at like a surface level, tell us a little bit more about like kind of how you frame that specifically in terms of like game, goals, all the things.
Yeah. So as a business owner, I want to release everybody. It is not your job to log into QuickBooks. I actually would prefer if you never logged into QuickBooks again. It is not your responsibility to do the bookkeeping. You are not a bookkeeper. You don't know how to do it. And it is best that you do not do the bookkeeping in your business. And I say that with a lot of love because I can't do what you do. Like I literally, physically, emotionally, I'm not good at it. It's not my skill set. I can't do what you do. I need you in my life. And so you do not need to do these tasks in your business to be a business owner. So I actually want business owners to understand that it is not your responsibility to do the bookkeeping. What is your responsibility? And what I want you to step up to the plate to do is to look at your numbers on a regular basis. So I want every single business, regardless of how big or small you are, to look at your numbers every single month. So every client who we work with at Kickstart, whether you're bringing in $75,000 a year or $1 million a year, our clients receive what we call the snapshot. And the snapshot is a CEO dashboard where we walk clients through your revenue, your expenses, your net income, cash, and how that all compares to other small business owners and the way that you're making money and spending money. And so I want everybody to know those numbers every single month.
And I think just like also having this regular check-in is
Yeah.
so important because I mean, some people just wait until the end of the year and they're like, how much do I owe on taxes? And waiting for someone to tell them. And I think it can become pretty messy pretty fast. And I think there's also too just a lot of like strategy and optimization you can do. I'm sure that plays a role in just kind of this game frame mindset that you have. Do you mind walking through some examples of how looking at your numbers on a monthly basis can really make a difference in just like how you're running your business or make more empowered decisions? Like walk through some examples of that.
Yeah. I have a very specific client who it was January of last year, and she had this great idea, as us visionaries do. And so she launched a second revenue stream. And if all she was looking at in her point of sale system or cash, like revenue coming in, it was like hockey stick growth. I mean, it was intense the way that the growth came into her business. However, she could not deliver the service to every single one of her clients. And so she brought on a team of contractors and people to help her deliver the service. And what she found over the next 8 months was that her debt payments were actually increasing. So every month she was watching her credit card and her line of credit go up and up. Revenue was still going up. So again, if all you're looking at is sales, she would have never seen it. So sales still going up, but her debt's going up. Her expenses are through the roof. Her profit is so low to non-existent almost every single month. And she also found that she actually didn't enjoy being a leader. She didn't enjoy it. And so it was around August 15th that she said to me, I have to disengage the service. I'm going to see the projects through that I have here today, but I'm not moving forward with this line of service. And she sent me a message recently and she said, I just want you to know how much I appreciate you and your team. She's like, because had you not been sending me the monthly snapshot, and we send our clients coaching questions because who knows what to do with all this information. So every month we ask coaching questions along in our snapshot. She's like, had I not had the numbers in front of me with the coaching questions so that I could apply what the information told me, I would have driven my family into debt. Like we would not be okay going into next year. My family needs my income and we would not be okay.
Man, that's a huge success story in terms of just being able to really get the clarity behind the numbers. Because I think at the end of the day, what you're saying too, it's like you see so many people who just look at the revenue coming in without tracking the expenses, without knowing, okay, what are my recurring costs each month? Plus, I think so often, I know in the photography space, associate teams are kind of all the rage, right? Like everyone's like, oh, hire an associate team. And they usually hire on a team. They're paying them, a good amount of money for like per hour, or maybe it's like per wedding, but then they're also taking on that additional workload, as well as like, are you also going to be outsourcing the editing? And this is also a typically cheaper service. So let's say I'm a wedding photographer and I shoot weddings at my price, but they want an associate. The associate will typically be less than what they would hire for me. And that's how a lot of photographers will kind of steer people into the associate direction just to get that time back. But I think what's really cool about what you do and just really focusing on the numbers is I know there are several photographers that I know who have tried launching photography associate teams and have found that, man, it's a lot more work and maybe not worth the money. And that can come with like, maybe they're not pricing it correctly. Maybe they need to look at their expenses more detailed. And I think what's really cool about these snapshots and doing something regularly and like really looking at the cost of your business and how much these services are actually costing you, that really helps you have that clarity to make sure that if you are going to be scaling to that extent, it has to make sense. And again, it's not just the numbers coming in, right? Like you have expenses. And so thanks for sharing that. I think that's just a really awesome and clear-cut example. What are some other things that you see people not doing the right way in the creative space in terms of finances?
Yeah. Keep in mind, you can grow a business and stay profitable. So that is possible if we're looking at the information every month, but we have to be looking at the right information every month. We had a few clients who came through onboarding. It was about this time last year. It was several photographers that we had signed on to work with us. And what we found in onboarding was that they had QuickBooks, so they had a QuickBooks file, and it's all the rage to have everything syncing together. So, there's Zaps for everything, or QuickBooks will highlight like, hey, Honeybook and QuickBooks, they sync together. And then you add on AI on top of all of the automations. And I'll tell you about one client specifically. What we found was that she had Honeybook syncing with QuickBooks and that her sales were duplicated. So she was about to file her taxes with her sales duplicated. She had been making business decisions all year long with her sales duplicated because she was doing her own bookkeeping. Here's the thing about QuickBooks and AI. AI does not, like, AI wants to please you. So when you put something into ChatGPT or Claude, like when you are using these tools, it wants to please you. So it will hallucinate and tell you what you want to hear. And QuickBooks, it has its own new set of AI features. And QuickBooks has long allowed business owners to do their own bookkeeping. But here's the thing about QuickBooks. It does not flash to you, like, right? There's no like flashing signs or anything that says, hey, that's not in the right place. You applied those payments incorrectly. Hey, that's really actually an owner's draw. It doesn't actually belong on the income statement. It doesn't tell you that you're doing the bookkeeping wrong. And so my client almost filed their taxes with their sales doubled, which would have meant double the tax bill. She had hired a few people based on that income, and she couldn't figure out why she was struggling so hard. The cash isn't there. It keeps on telling me that the profit that is there, but the cash isn't there. And when she found out that the sales were duplicated, oh my gosh, like, what a hard thing to come back from. And she did. She's still a client a year later. We were able to fix that. She didn't have to let anyone go on her team. Like, she is a success story. But there is this like dark side to AI and automation. And I'm seeing it a lot in this industry specifically.
Totally. And I think that's interesting how AI has just been all the rage these days. And I think we've all experienced that, where it is really just trying to figure out what you want to hear. It's not really factual. It's not necessarily always truth seeking. There have been times where we've tried feeding it like certain documents and just testing, like, okay, report back on these key things. And it starts reporting on things that aren't in the documents. Like, it's making things up. And you're like, where is this coming from? So AI has its place in the world. I think people give it a little too much power and influence, at least at this point in time in the world. And so it is interesting, just like, man, at something so concrete as numbers, that you're still seeing that happen. I mean, that should be a huge red flag that we should be looking out for in terms of like, do we really want to trust this? Is this really something worth cutting corners on,
Yeah. As a business owner, like I said, it's not your responsibility. Like, I don't think that you should go into QuickBooks and evaluate it. I do get it. I do understand why we're in this situation. However, the automations can cause a lot of issues. If we then take incorrect information and say, hey, chat, act as my financial advisor and tell me what I'm doing right and wrong in my business. Well, we've just now taken the incorrect data from QuickBooks, fed it into chat, asked for it to send this financial analysis that isn't correct. So that's just another area right now that I'm seeing that I want to shout from the rooftops, is to stop relying on automation and AI and allow humans to help make sure things are accurate. And then there's a place for it.
Totally. Now, for people who are listening and they're like, man, like, I feel like my QuickBooks is a mess. Maybe they don't even use QuickBooks. Maybe they're just kind of like, man, I don't have any of this financial clarity in my business. What would you say are some of their first steps before hiring someone on that they could do to help clean things up?
Versus just admitting that there could be a problem. There actually could be a problem in your financials. We do offer a check your books solution. So if you have books that you are keeping that you're not sure if it's right or wrong, you're like, I kind of think I'm doing a good job, but I just want to double check. We do offer a check your books solution. The other thing that I'll say is stop commingling business and personal. If I could give one other thing to start and stop doing, it would be make sure that your personal expenses are going through your personal checking account and your business expenses are going through your business checking account, so that when you do decide to work with somebody, whether it be your CPA at the end of the year, a bookkeeper, a CFO, like whoever it might be that you're going to work with, keep those record keeping very clean so that it makes it easier when you are ready to work with somebody.
I'm sure that you've seen it all with people onboarding, because sometimes I think when people outsource something like this, they're like, oh my gosh, everything's on fire. Here, someone just help me. And it's like, oh man, where do you even start? Are you setting up your tax person, CPA, bookkeeper up for success? So I think that's very, very sound advice, is just at the very least separate your business and personal. That should be a given. If you don't have a separate account from business versus personal, do that, like, for sure.
Do it.
You will be so happy that you did. Any other things or tips or things that you think are really helpful for people to kind of get on that right track?
Yeah, I'll talk about tax season since this will air at tax season. One thing that I have heard so many times over the years is my CPA told me to go spend a bunch of money because I was going to have to pay taxes on my profit. And it is a quarter four mistake that I hear every single year. And so I want to encourage us as business owners to decide what type of business that we want to have. You get to decide that. Like, it's the coolest part about entrepreneurship is that you get to decide what this thing is that you're building. And if you are like, I want to do this for a long time, like I want a healthy, sustainable business, that means we need profits. So we have to have profits in order to sustain the business. If we are always spending money just to save money on taxes, you're never going to have enough cash in the business to reinvest. If you aren't leaving enough dollars in there to pay yourself and to hire other people, create the systems in your business, it'll be really difficult to be in this for the long game. And so we use a tool called healthy spending because we need to spend in our business. However, we don't need to overspend to the point where we're no longer profitable. So if you are somebody who says, I want to be in this for the long game, we want to see about 15% of your sales in profits at the end of every year. So when your tax accountant says, oh, go spend this money, you could say, oh no, I'm intentionally going to keep this money in my business because I need to be able to apply for a mortgage. I need to be able to get a car loan. I need to be able to become an S Corp. I need to be able to pay myself. And so thank you, CPA. However, I'm in it for the long game and I'm going to create a healthy, sustainable business.
I love that. And I think that's really cool how it comes back to some of those goal settings, because you're right. You get to decide what kind of business you are running. And, there's definitely a difference between the type of creative business owner who's just doing it on the side because it's kind of like their fun money and they just like to enjoy it and it's kind of cute. And then there's other people who are like, oh no, I'm living off this. I need to be able to retire off of this. This is sustaining my family. There's definitely two different camps. And I think it's easy for there to be this assumption that a lot of creative business owners are just kind of doing it on the side. And I think a lot of times it starts there, but there is this shift that happens, especially when you take something that started as a side hustle and going full time and really trying to make it sustainable. Do you mind talking a little bit more though about some of those mindset or things around like those goal setting things? Because I think that's really important too. Like, yeah, there's this balance between spending and saving, and then also just like setting yourself up for the future. What else do you think is really helpful for people to know just kind of in that category?
So we do what we call financial review calls with our clients. So as part of our bookkeeping package, clients at the end of each month or quarter, depending on the package they're in, they can book a financial review call with our team to go over their snapshot, their financial statements. And so I want to share what happens. People get on the call and it literally shoulders up to their ears, super, super tense, like, okay, all right, tell me where I have to cut back. And I'm like, whoa, okay. Let's relax, calm down. First of all, I'm not the money police. You actually don't need to cut back on your spending. Most times, if your business, if you are in a season of high growth, meaning I want to grow this business, maybe I'm moving a side hustle to full-time business owner and I need to grow this business, I should be able to see your goal in your financial statements, meaning I should see marketing costs. I should see advertising dollars. Like I should see you spending in order to support that goal. You need to spend in a high growth season around 10% of your sales in advertising and marketing dollars to grow a business. Maybe you've been in business for a few years and you're like, okay, I actually need to have some sustainability in this business. I am ready to start hiring some associates and I can't be at every single shoot. And so I need to start hiring a team. At that point, we want to be able to see about 30% of your sales going towards payroll to pay other people, because your goal is to have balance in your life. Now, I can't be all things at all seasons at all times, but as a business owner, you're allowed to spend money that's going to align with your goals. And I want to encourage you to do that. So you don't always have to be stressed that you have to cut back. You have to spend intentionally.
And I think that's a good reminder too, because I think so often a lot of people are like, I'm wearing all the hats, right? You are going to be spending, whether it's time or money, on something. And if you can reinvest in your business, the financial aspect, to get that time back to allow you to further scale things or to help grow other areas of your business that you'd actually be a better fit in, why spend all this time in front of the spreadsheets, right? When you're best set being in front of the camera, trying to create, different reels, or doing your own marketing, like putting your time and effort into that, or hiring an agency to do that. There's so much that goes into it. So I think that's a really good mindset of just like, when you look back and review your finances, making sure that it supports your goals and really having those defined. Do you have any advice for people who maybe feel like they don't have that clarity on the type of business that they're trying to build, or they don't really have any set financial goals? Any sort of starting place or advice for them to kind of get the ball rolling with that?
Can I give you a tool that I would love to give to the audience? If you go to kickstartaccountinginc.com/gift. So kickstartaccountinginc.com/gift, and you can put the link in the show notes. There's two things in there that we've already talked about today. There is a financial goal setting worksheet on there. And then there's also a tool where you can download a checklist to check your own books. So if you're doing your own bookkeeping, there's two free tools there that you can use from listening to this episode. If you have never, I think as entrepreneurs, it's something new that we do. Not everybody goes and sets financial goals, right? It is something as entrepreneurs that's a little bit different. So if you're newer in your business or just transitioning from side hustle to being a full-time entrepreneur, it can be really hard to do those first few times. And I think the mindset shift is saying that I am the identity, right? I have the identity of someone who sets goals. Right? That's the first mindset shift is I am a business owner. I am the type of business owner who sets goals, not New Year's resolutions, but I set goals in my business. I have things that I'm working towards. There's seasons of my business. And with that identity shift allows you to be able to start to think about what's possible. And if you need support, and I'm not saying it has to be Kickstart, find a money team. Find someone who can help you say, hey, here's where you just were. That's the act of bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is what just happened, right? How much revenue did you bring in? How much did you spend? Have someone help you to say, all right, here's where you were. Here's what worked. Here's what didn't work. And here's where I want to go in the future. I think people have a really hard time goal setting for the future when they don't know where they've been.
I couldn't agree more. And that also helps you identify your trends and where you need to improve. And so having that starting point and then really just defining where you want to go, I think that really makes all the difference. Because at the end of the day, we're not just doing this only for fun. I'm all about making sure that you love your job, right? But it does have to pay the bills. It does have to feed into other areas of your life. And so I think that's just been really, really good just to kind of talk through today. So Danielle, we've talked about so much today. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to leave our listeners with?
My number one lesson that I learned in entrepreneurship is to stop trying to do it all. I tried to act like I was a superhuman and that I could do everything in my business. And I don't have that strength. I actually, there's a lot that I can't do. And the minute that I said I don't have to wear every single hat in my business, that's actually when I fell in love with my business. And so I just want to invite you into that. You don't have to do it all. You don't have to do everything. So whether it be bookkeeping or the marketing tasks or the reels or the Instagram, whatever it is, invite you to release those things so that you can love this business.
I love that. I love that so much. Well, Danielle, thank you so much for just everything you've shared today. For anyone listening who wants to connect with you or find you, where can they find you and what types of things do you have to offer?
Yeah, kickstartaccountinginc.com/gift. You can download all of those free resources. We have our podcast, Business by the Books. We go on every single week to talk about how to use your numbers to make better business decisions.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Danielle. And for everyone listening, be sure to check the show notes for all those links, and we'll see you next week.